It's the Ask Sessions for the OES Centre, and we are asking your favourite people the questions that you give to us. Sitting in front of me right now is one of the most important artists to come out of Northern Ireland in recent times, Brady Mons Watson. So, hello.
I feel like I wanted to drop in sound effects there when you said that.
Do I have it? Let me see if I've got a sound effect here.
Fireworks and stuff.
Oh, I just have nice music to speak over.
Very professional.
Doesn't work. It doesn't work. But yeah, like we have loads of questions that were sent in to you, and you know, you started your musical career and musical journey at a very early age, like much earlier than most people. So like I assume by like what age are you now? Like 20?
I just turned 25.
25. Yeah. So by this stage, you should have much more pearls of wisdom than most people double your age.
I don't know about that.
Signed to Rough Trade, Mercury Music nominated, and here we are. And me asking you a simple question: what advice would you give to someone starting out with nothing, who's wanting to get into music, whether it's writing, whether it's gigging?
I'd say just like first and foremost, immerse yourself in like every element of kind of that scene. Like go to as much gigs as you can. Kind of try and hang out with as many like-minded people as you can, because that's what's gonna that's your entry point really, is like into your local scene, is to try and absorb as much of that as possible. And then after that, I mean, simultaneously, kind of just try to create as much as you possibly can. Like try and get as much inspiration from your local scene, but also I guess the World Wide Web. And just create should be your kind of priority. Make as much as you can, because that's where you're gonna learn the most, just by making mistakes and making nice things, and that's the trial and error process. But I think ultimately it's like really immerse yourself in the scene, go to all the gigs, support the local bands, and that's kind of where you accidentally fall into positions like opening up for people or meeting people that might write with you or play in your band or stuff like that, is definitely the starting point.
You kind of have to write a lot of music to get good at the start as well. Like generally the first thing that you write's not going to be great. You kind of almost have to have a bit of a strong will to be able to stick with being not great at writing music at the beginning, don't you?
Yeah. Like it's very easy to sit down and start writing a song, like, no, it's shit, I'm done. And like, and be really, it's very easy to be like consumed with doubt over things, especially in the creative world. So I'd say like be nice to yourself and be kind to yourself as you start to write music. Like just doesn't even matter if it's good or bad. It matters if you're enjoying yourself and if you're having a nice time while you do it. And just make for the sake of making, for the joy of it, and then come back to things and review them afterwards. I think the most important part of the creative process is enjoyment and fulfillment for your own self before anybody else has heard it, because I mean down the line even if you show other people, if you don't like it, then there's not really much point in any of it, even if other people do. But it's definitely just make. That's kind of the biggest advice I could give.
Those first gigs are generally the ones that happen in the backs of pubs around your small town. They were for me. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's the same for yourself, but like getting those gigs can be quite difficult. And you're right. Generally, immersing yourself in the scene is that you need to be in the arena to get picked, don't you?
Yeah, and I think as well, like those first gigs that you'll do are the ones you're really gonna have to fight for, because typically nobody really cares for you at that point in time. Like that's where you have to prove yourself and really convince people to take you on. But I think as well, it's the first couple of gigs that you're trying to create a cannonball kind of effect, or a domino effect, where you have one good gig and then you get asked to the next gig, and you know, it's kind of, you play one gig off another gig and get a momentum going. So yeah. Right.
What does an artist's average week look like? Like, do you sort of like go, this is how much time I spend on writing, this is how much time I spend on recording, this is how much time I spend on gigging, or is it just like a bit of a free for all?
It's changed drastically in the past couple of years. There's a point in time where I literally like had no kind of schedule routine or anything, where I just like live a pretty chill, like a lot of my friends are stoners and just kind of like hanging around with them. And then in the evening, I would write a lot of music, and I would kind of just, when I felt like it or felt like I had to say something, I would go and write music. And now I'm like kind of on a constant process of like, I'm always writing lyrics in my phone. I'm always making a melody or a riff, or so it's very constant, and it really wasn't like when I was younger. But I think I had to work up to that. Like, I definitely started to create a schedule where I would wake up and I would have breakfast and walk around, listen to a lot of things I liked, and kind of just get into the music-y mindset. Or I'd read, and I try to find inspiration in something, so that when I went into, I have like a room where I have everything now and I work from, and I would build up that kind of inspiration or that music mind, and then I'd go in there and kind of be ready to settle into something. So now my routine is very much that. I'll go in and I'll hang in my music room and just play about for ages, really. I'll just spend like Monday to Friday, I pretty much go into that room, spend like 6 hours a day in there. And I mean, in the hopes that I'll find a song, or a song will come to me, or I'll finish a song, or I'll work on a song I was working on. But if it's also just not happening, I'll like sit and learn technical things like on guitar or piano or in a producer level, just because like I really have come to believe in that 10,000 hours theory of like, that's what makes you, you know, the best at what you do. So I think even if I'm not like hitting a creative stride that day, at least I'm, you know, investing time in something that's going to come to aid me in the future. Yeah. So that's kind of how my day goes. And then I'll get a coffee somewhere nearby, just to like, if I'm doing my head in with concentration. And then kind of like 5 or 6, depending on like, if I'm really like having a great time with what I'm doing, I'll just like sit and do that for forever. But if not, I'll just do a big mad walk around, and then kind of like for the evenings, take it pretty chill, socialize, or like spend a lot of time. I mean, I just love music, so I spend so much time researching artists I like, or watching artists I like, or listening to artists I like, and kind of just finding out more about things like that.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always got. Now. Yeah, I've always got that from you. Like, you're like a total nerd, like a total music nerd. Like, you know all of the good new bands that are starting. Like,
that's the best thing ever, though. Like, there's nothing. I love just like sitting down with someone who is like-minded and hearing all the bands that they really like, that like are just coming up or just starting out. Like, there's nothing more fun than someone who's really like getting so excited and hyped off a song, and then they can share it with you, and you can also like return the favor with something you really like. It's the best.
How do you find fresh inspiration and keep things consistent?
I try to kind of stray out of my comfort zone. Like, there's definitely like certain genres of music I'm more like attracted to, and like things that I'll get used to, and then like there was a while where I would really listen to The National, and I would just keep going back to them, and then I'd notice that I would like start to write really kind of sad, like monotone songs. Like, it kind of feeds into your, after a while it really like rests in your brain. So then I'd like push it out and start listening like Frank Ocean or something like that, or I don't know, like Sigur Rós, like really just switch up what kind of things I'm consuming, I guess.
Just anything I play on chill debates, basically.
I just go and I get your playlist and I just
go
through that.
I'm the full inspiration for everything that you've ever done. I know that's what you're saying. That's what I'm taking from it anyway.
That's exactly what I'm glad you could interpret it exactly how I meant it.
But like that inspiration comes from literature and art and other places as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, more so now than before. But I think like even I find a lot of inspiration in movies and stuff. Like, that's something over time I've come more to realize. Like, art isn't just like, well, I came to understand art as like music and everything like that, because it's such a fusion of emotion, like with words and feeling. And the more I've got older, the more I've come to realize that like movies like Juno are like phenomenal, and like there's so
Love it.
much emotion and stuff in that, and I found that movies like that so inspiring. And also like books is a new one for me. I was like severely dyslexic when I was younger, so I think I was always like intimidated by books because I read like a turtle, like I was so slow. And now over time I've like really sped up my stuff. So I started reading loads, and definitely poetry and books is something that fuels inspiration a lot these days. There's actually I just read I'm about to start that Sinead O'Connor book, which looks incredible. But I just finished one called Crying in H Mart. Do you know Japanese breakfast?
Yeah.
You should read that. It's like one of the best things I've ever read. And I feel like I could write an album just based off how sad that made me.
But yeah, I mean that's it. Like I mean, like, we definitely have like similar taste and stuff like that. And it is just it's talking about things and creating that like creating that conversation too. I think that like with my dog barking at the back of me, I think probably says that that's probably the end of the interview. And if you can hear, she's saying soak very quickly. Listen, soak.
I'm gonna sample that.
Yeah, got to do it. Brady, you're a legend. You're a G. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
22212. Hello. How you doing? He's all good? Saw like the free sandwiches are pretty much gone. I ran down before the end of the last one so I could get them before everybody else. I feel a little bit bad about that. Thanks for watching that video. The wonderful soak and a little appearance from my dog Rebel that jumped in the background as well. We're on to the second panel of the day, which is called Getting Above the Noise. And we have 5 panelists right here, right now. And I will get them all to introduce themselves and what it is they do, starting with you, Francesca, over at the end.
Hi, everyone. My name is Francesca O'Connor. I'm an artist manager and do music promotion as well. I also work for other organisations, Association of Independent Music and Independent Venue Week. So yeah, I cover a kind of a broad spectrum of the music industry.
Hello, my name's Corbin. I work at YouTube, have done for the past 4 years. I'm on our music team. So I work with the UK music industry to understand kind of what's bubbling and exciting and then figure out how YouTube can support. And then the other side of my role is to kind of give masterclasses and make sure that the independent sector is kind of well equipped to make their success on the platform.
Hi guys, I'm Addison. I run Tablet Promotions, which basically just curates nights in independent venues. I'm also a booking agent and I do bits in kind of music journalism and radio broadcasting occasionally.
Hi everyone, I'm Anya Kerner-McCartney. I am an artist manager as well as A&R for a record label that is based in Dublin called Faction Music. We look after a number of different artists as well as running a label and publishing. I also work across music journalism and radio broadcasting, and most specifically on the show ATL Introducing. So same as everyone on this table, we do lots of different stuff in the music industry.
Hello everyone, what's the crack? I don't do a lot of stuff, but I am Lemonade Shoelace, so I write and produce all the music for it. Yeah,
It's going pretty good. It's going pretty well at the minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got like a real good cross section of people whose job it is to make sure that your music or great music in general finds its way from the grassroots venues or from your bedroom to like a bigger audience, whether that's through radio, whether that's through live gigs, promotions, or being you. Like I'm going to use you. You're the biggest case study that I'm going to use. You're sitting up here right now. Like you're going to get a lot of questions directed right to you. I suppose like kind of like just before we get into like talking precisely about how artists can level up, like what is it that like you do, and like describe your job to me and tell me a little bit more in detail, Anya, like about what goes into A&R and what goes into being a band manager.
So obviously they are two different things that probably come together at some point or have overlapped at some point. So for my A&R role at Faction, that's usually just me sourcing out new music. I'm not always going out in the hunt looking for it. Sometimes people will send me music. Sometimes I discover it like through the BBC Introducing Uploader when I'm working on radio. Sometimes I just discover it in Spotify playlists or through social media, either Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever. And it's usually taking a look at those artists, maybe having a chat with them earlier on in their career and just seeing what their plans are. And then really figuring out if that's like the right sort of relationship for us to develop at that point. Sometimes artists are maybe a bit early on in their career to take on them as either a management or like a label perspective. But yeah, I suppose then obviously I do have deeper relationships with other artists. I manage an indie pop artist called Reva. And have done for the last 2.5 years. So that's a really good relationship that we have developed over that time. And when I started working with her, it was really about setting certain like goals and ambitions that she had for her music. She had been performing for a certain amount of time and had put out a few songs at that stage, but really wanted to develop her stage setup, really wanted to develop her sound, really had like bigger plans for what she wanted her music to become. So it was about working together with her and figuring out what are the next steps for that, how do we help that happen. And we have done what we have in the last 2 years, and that included 1.5 years of COVID. So I don't think there's like a one size fits all for every single relationship you're going to have with an artist, because each of them have different goals, different targets, and just different needs in terms of what they want out of a relationship. So yeah, that's a bit of about both of those sorts of roles.
So what you're saying is that anybody here wants a label deal or management, they can come up to you and you will definitely give it to them.
Maybe.
Addison, tell me about you. You're like sort of fresh to the promotions game in Belfast.
Yeah, so I started off in music journalism through university, through Queen's Radio, and we would have put on gigs kind of like at a really grassroots level. So it would have all been like student involved, student bands, and then it just kind of grew from that. I started promoting independently just before the pandemic, which went really well because the gigs stopped after about a month of putting on gigs. But yeah, basically a lot of it is being really, really involved in the scene. So if you're an artist and you're going down to other artists' gigs, you're going to be meeting people, you're going to be, even just kind of making friends generally. They're going to ask you to do support slots and that kind of thing. And it's just kind of like curating that kind of atmosphere where people can enjoy music together and kind of get a leg up in that way, really is what it's about. And working with venues that are really supportive of artists as well, because it's really great, that we have the kind of bigger places that get in international artists and stuff like that, but it's the local scenes, places like the the Black Box and stuff that do that really well. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's primarily like Irish acts that you work with as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so a lot of the time it's about pairing kind of like a more established headliner that's maybe been on the circuit for 3-4 years, and kind of what I like to do is anytime that I get someone that's a little bit more well known, I like to put them together with an act that's like never had a gig before, because not only does that give them like a leg up and give them a good audience, but it's also a really good, like, it's really enticing for the audience to know that the person they're about to see, no one's ever seen them before. So I think that, like, don't be put off by not having ever played before, and like don't be put off to not approach people if you haven't done something, because everyone has to kind of start somewhere.
Big time. Corbin, what about you? Like with YouTube Music, like I mean, your sort of raison d'etre is to, like, you know, make things bigger on the YouTube platform. Is that just label acts and signed acts, or is it unsigned as well?
Yeah, definitely unsigned. So we have teams that work with artists, we have teams that work with labels, you have teams that work with charities and non-profits like Gemma at the back there. Sorry for embarrassing you. And we do a lot with, you know, places like this, the OES Centre, places in Scotland, and a big focus is to get outside the London bubble, because it does often feel like, you know, that's where the music industry is, you know, that's where the big three record labels are, and for, you know, music is everywhere in the UK. So a lot of our focus is how do we reach those talented people outside of London, you know, like here, and by partnering with institutions like this, it's a great way to do that. And then following on from that, what we try to do at YouTube is make sure that the independent community is a level playing field with the majors. So making sure that you have the same information, you have the same funding opportunities, marketing opportunities. We always try to make sure with everything that we're doing that there's a fair representation of major label artists and indie artists. And then we have specific programs like our Foundry program, which is specifically for independent artists. And then we have things like the MMF program and the Accelerator program, which is for managers who have unsigned artists. So all the while just trying to find exciting talent and figuring out how, like you said, how you can level up and how we can support them.
It is like become much more prevalent with bigger companies like yourselves, like places like Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and just various different regions are getting looked at more. Do you think that's simply due to the fact that like London is where people used to, bands and artists would go to make themselves, but it's now so expensive to live there that it can just be done at home now?
I think, yeah, and you've definitely seen that during the pandemic. I think it's the virtual and digital world is so connected now, and you can, you know, get signed from there. And, you know, you see artists like H, who still lives in Manchester, but, you know, is starting to become like a world. There used to be only like a handful of acts that you could wear from outside of London, you know, like an Oasis, for example. But then they'd moved to London, whereas now you don't have to. Everything can be done via Zoom. One thing you can, I think songwriting is a very intimate and personal thing, and doing that via Zoom is quite difficult.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the world is your oysters now that everything's virtual.
Francesca, tell us a little bit about like the sort of intricacies of what it is that you do.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's kind of like a broad spectrum, so I'll just kind of go through each one. In terms of artist management, I'm currently managing 3 artists at the minute. Joshua Burnside, Letha, and Dranvale, and 2 of those are kind of indie folk, and the other is like electronic. Whenever it comes to, and I'm sure Anya will probably agree with me as well, like whenever it comes to managing an artist, you have to love them, like, because it is a full-time labor of love. So if anybody here is, you know, either wanting to be a manager or looking for a manager, as long as you are both like equally invested in, you know, that becoming a success, and that's kind of the key thing, really, because it is, you know, it's like a relationship. You kind of both have to be in it till the end. So make sure you're definitely finding the right fit. I think a lot of artists can kind of rush to be like, you know, I need a manager, but really it's up to the artist to make sure they're making the right choice as well, just so you're not rushing. You know, you might have different goals or different sort of vision. Making sure you kind of have that right relationship from the offset is really important. Like even whenever I went to go see like Joshua Burnside at the weekend, and I never get sick of seeing him live. I've seen him live countless times and he still blows me away. Do you know? And that's the kind of relationship you should really have with your artist manager. So just a wee tip there. In terms of, yeah, well, whenever like the pandemic and stuff hit, obviously live music kind of came to a halt. So I kind of went on to do music promotion then, PR for Irish artists just within Ireland. So like the last year and a half I've been doing that, really, and I've got to work with so many amazing independent artists across Ireland, and ones I wouldn't have known of otherwise. So it's been really, really brilliant. And you know, I think that's the that's the beauty of kind of what's happened the last 18 months is even though we haven't been able to go out and play as much, you can still release no problem. And kind of like Corbin was saying, you can do so much at home. You know, you can home produce like, you know, easier than ever before. So it hasn't really put a stop to releasing music, which is really brilliant. And the amount of new music I've been getting sent is just amazing. And like even the quality of it has like reached new heights as well, because I think it's given people the time to really like, you know, finesse what they've been doing really with their music before the pandemic. So that's been really exciting. I also work for Association of Independent Music, and they're based in London. And kind of the same thing with YouTube. It's kind of trying to break that geographical barrier between London and Northern Ireland. So kind of being able to bring all those sort of London-based opportunities to the people in Northern Ireland, because like we have so much talent here, but it is just kind of getting those resources and opportunities here as well. So you can either like sign up as a member, or else you can get free resources as well just by going onto their website, associationofindependentmusic.org. You can check that out. You can get a load of free resources, and you can get like video producer contacts, and get loads of kind of like discounts and stuff for us to kind of help you literally get that sort of leg up really onto the next level. And Independent Venue Week is about celebrating and supporting independent venues across the UK. So this is our second year doing Independent Venue Week from the 31st of January to the 6th of February. And we'll be having loads of independent venues take part in the week, putting on original music. So make sure to get out and support all your independent venues. So
there goes the big sell.
There you go.
Rory, you're the baby of the group, right? Like you're fresh in. Like, I mean, how many singles have you released to this date?
One.
There you go. One seems to be going down pretty well. Like to talk me through like when you started in music, and like how you found being like a new artist and having to navigate the music industry.
So yeah, I spent 4 years studying BIM down in Dublin, which was really, really good. Obviously I learned a lot, not just through just being part of the college, but just watching other artists do their thing. Because like I didn't do anything in BIM. Like I didn't have Lemonade Shoelace or any projects. I was just teaching myself production and songwriting. So watching other artists do it and just learning from what they've done really, really helped. And then when lockdown happened, I moved back up here, and all the networking that I did in Dublin just, you know, went to waste, because like I then moved to Belfast, and I was part of the Scratch My Progress, and thankfully through that, like I met a lot of people. And yeah, it's just kind of rolled on from then. Autopilot Paradise was released under the Scratch My Progress scheme, and it probably would still be on my hard drive if it wasn't for the OES Center. But yeah, it was just like a kind of journey that just kind of led to where I am now.
It's funny because like we were talking in the first panel about music education, where some people are saying it's a great thing to go and do, and some people are thinking that it's better to go and just do it yourself. How did you find that? Like, you know, being at the biggest music college in Ireland, BIM?
Yeah, like I think the best thing you can get from it is actually just having that time to focus on music, and being around other people that are doing the exact same thing as you. Like if everyone else is focusing on music and you're doing the exact same thing, it's just going to motivate you. You're going to be you're going to be in a lot of gigs. You're meeting a lot of tutors and stuff that can give you a lot of information, and you're obviously learning about the mechanics of the industry as well, which is a very, very deep subject. But once you start learning about it, yeah, everything becomes a lot clearer.
Does it kind of ruin music for you a little bit when you have to like study it? Like for me, working on radio has ruined radio for me, because now when I listen to the radio, I'm like, I can hear mistakes, or I can hear really good bits, and I'm just like shouting at the radio, going, "Shut up! Just play a track."
Yeah, in a way, because like I went there and I went and did the guitar stream, and like everyone there was insane at guitar. Like imagine being in college and everyone's like, and like I was like, oh, just so like I had to teach myself something else that I could trump them with, which was, you know, like production and songwriting. So it's just about kind of going there and wanting to get something out of it, and like whatever you put into the college, you're going to get out of. Whatever you put into education, you're going to get out of as well. So if you want to be good at something, you just have to educate yourself in it, and take whatever, you know, other people have to say about it on board.
I think it shows a lot of restraint as well. Like going and learning for a couple of years and then starting your project. I think every single person wants to start their project right now, and they want to release their music before it's ready, because you get really buzzed by it. Maybe you go to the studio and you put down your first ever thing, and the automatic feeling is that you're really proud of it, and you want to stick it up on SoundCloud or whatever straight away, and that's probably the worst thing that you can do.
Yeah,
isn't it?
see, like I learned a lot just by watching all my mates do the exact same thing. Like they would go in, they'd
watch them fail, and you're like,
yeah, I didn't want to say that
that
earlier, but yeah, like watching everyone else fail helped me understand how to not fail. Like everyone was going there and they were like, starting bands, and they would record a single and then they would release it, have like a single release, and then like nothing would happen after that. You kind of have to have the entire project in your head before, and plan ahead and know where you're going to go, what the project's going to look like, sound like, and kind of just feel like before you start putting stuff out.
So each of you guys, I'm going to ask you. I'm not going to ask you right now because I want to give you time to think about it. But like a really good case study of like a band or an act that has like started off from virtually zero and propelled themselves up, and how they've done that, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that. But we'll come back to that. I'm just putting it in your head because I know it's a really shitty situation to just drop that on you right away from being on that side of the panel as well. So like when it comes to finding music, right, everybody here is sent quite a substantial amount of music by people who are quite keen to get on the radio or get on YouTube music or get on your gigs or like there's 100 different reasons why people will send you stuff. Is there the right way to send music? Is there a wrong way to send music? What are the sort of pitfalls and ways that you prefer to get it? Because God knows, like I've been called everything from Bill to Nigel. Hey Nigel, like if you listen to it, I was like, "Well, mate, your copy and paste thing's broke." So I'll start with you, Francesca.
Yeah, I suppose like if people are sending me music, the best way or the way I prefer anyway is getting like a SoundCloud link, just because it's easy to sort of stream and you don't have to download anything. Because if anybody's laptop's like mine, it's like overheating with stuff. So just being able to get a link that I can just stream there and then is probably the best way for me. And in terms of like finding new music as well, I love listening to the radio, and I know like you obviously have a better understanding than I would, but I think a lot of people are kind of just going straight to like Spotify and listen to like Spotify song radio, but actually listening into like alternative music shows or like ATL, you can kind of hear where like what artist is sort of making a buzz or what track is really making an impact. So that's kind of where I like to find new music as well, in the likes of ATL, where it could be somebody's first ever release, and in like in Rory's case, that could be the one that just totally sets you up. So it's really good indicator of kind of who's making a buzz and who to be listening out for.
It is a weird thing because like to like radio for me when I was like a teenager coming up, it was just radio. It was there. It was ubiquitous. But like I didn't have about 100. I didn't have every film, every piece of music, like just at the click of a button. So people kind of maybe have moved away from radio slightly. But actually, when you want to know what's going on in your own city, it's the best thing to listen to, especially music. So like the Across the Line show that Anya works on Mondays, and that it really is like it sums up where Northern Irish music is right now.
It's such an important show, and it is so great for supporting grassroots artists, grassroots venues, grassroots people that work in the music industry, just giving them a platform, whether that's to share their music or talk about their experiences. And the BBC Introducing Uploader is one of the most incredible tools. I hear people in Radio Ulster still talking about the first time they heard Soak's demo that they uploaded onto the BBC Introducing Uploader, because it was such a special track for them to put up. And they still remember hearing that for the first time. And their journey since that's been incredible. So I always say to everyone, like, get it up there. We listen to everything that goes into the BBC Introducing Uploader. And there's a special segment on the show, that really highlights, artists that maybe haven't got to the stage that some of the other artists that are played there, the world exclusive segments, where newer artists get highlighted and you get to have your track played and discussed by Gemma and other contributors. So definitely, don't eliminate the power of radio. It still excites me when I hear a new song, and it always happens in the car when my boyfriend is yapping away and I'm like, shh, what, like, turn it up. I want to hear what that track is. Get your Shazam out. Like, I need to know what that song is. because it just hits you like differently when you're listening to it on the radio, and it kind of blows you away for a moment. And yeah, for me, I find that one of the most exciting things, hearing new music and hearing new artists across the airwaves in whatever form that is.
Corbin, do you get tracked down much by bands and artists? Like, do the internet sleuths find your email address and darken your doorstep? And how do you prefer it, or how not?
I do. It's because I've got quite a unique name, so I'm not that hard to find on socials. So yeah,
it must be difficult, like having two surnames. Everybody's just like going, like, right, okay.
Yeah. Uber drivers love it. If I'm Jeremy's kid, I'm not. Yeah, it's a lot through email. I don't know how they get my email, but I'm not mad about it. I would say, kind of to your point, like, am I speaking? Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, closer. A
little bit closer.
Yeah.
Okay. Like to your point, there's hundreds of tracks every week, so it's how do you find those little gems in there? And I think to answer your question, like a few tips would be: one, get your timing right. Between 1 and 2 weeks before a release is when it's probably the optimum time to be sending it to DSPs, streaming services. I know, like us at YouTube, we kind of program our playlist week of. I think Apple does the week before. I think anything further than that, people are likely going to forget. Be sympathetic to who you're sending it to. Get the name right. It sounds basic, but people call me Corey, and that's not my name. If you're sending me a link to a track, don't send me a Spotify link. I'm YouTube. Send me a YouTube link. Just little things like that are really going to turn people off or make people think, oh, you've actually thought about what you're sending. And keep it short and sweet and visual. You know, sum it up in a couple of sentences, a couple of paragraphs, attach the one sheet if they want to find out more information, but keep it short, keep it sweet, and yeah, know who you're sending to.
It's nothing better than getting a wee transfer link that, like, you look at it and it's 1.4 gigabytes and you're like going,
no.
Do you think I am? Like, do you think I am the cloud? Like, just send me a link. Addison, what about you? Like, I'm sure like you have a lot of people like coming at you going, give me a gig, give me a gig, give me a gig.
Yeah, so when I worked in radio, there's like exactly the same problem. Like, you get, bands or artists emailing you being like, hey, check out my band, and then they wouldn't link you anything, and you're like, right, well, it sounds silly, but like I don't really have the time to be like googling you or finding you on Spotify, even though it only takes a couple of minutes. But like at the end of the day, if you're putting yourself forward, you have to put it all forward. Nobody's going to do the work for you. In terms of gigs as well, a lot of it is like streamlining the information, kind of what you said about like, keeping it to the point. If you've played gigs before, include the information about it. If you haven't, put that in too. It's not a bad point, but people kind of need, they need to know that kind of thing. I guess it's the same for radio as well. You want to, or, if you're looking for a review, even a written review, include other press that have covered you and that kind of thing, just to give a base kind of entry introduction to it. In terms of gigs, the best thing that you can do is get in contact at least 2 months before. A lot of bands come to me. I had a band come to me about a week ago saying, we want to play Belfast in December. And I was like, okay, well, that's about...
What, like next year?
yeah. Like, well, that's about 2 weeks away. So, like, by the time you've got the tickets all working and graphics and all of that, we're announcing the day after the gig, right? Like, it's just a bit... I don't know, even with DIY gigs, you kind of need to have, at least 2-3 months behind it, even for something small. So kind of be prepared, all of the basic stuff that's been said, get the names right. Even like know the organization you're going to and know the kind of thing that they're used to doing. Because if they're putting on, like with Tablet, I put on a lot of different gigs. It's mostly kind of bands and electronica, and I do accept, if somebody wants to come forward and, they're a metal band, I'll still listen to it. And, if I think it's good, I'll put it on. But know where you're going and know that it's something that they would want to receive, because otherwise it's just not going to get read and you're going to be wasting, your time and their time. And,
Yeah, for some reason I get sent a lot of just slam poetry. Of going, I've just recorded myself doing this. I was like, I've never played slam poetry in my show once. But yeah, yeah, and I'm just like, I don't know if somebody's put my name up on like a website or something. Go and just send this guy slam poetry, but it's the cross I bear. First world problems, eh? So what was it like, Rory, with you when you had to like send your music to people for the first bit? Like, obviously, it was considered, how long it took you to get to take your time, think about everything. did you put the same consideration into like when you had your music and you were going to put it out?
Yeah, definitely. Like a lot of consideration has to be put into everything. Like I did sell my music to a lot of people, and I had a lot of, like a good lot of interest in it. Like a lot of managers and labels were kind of attacking me, so I just kind of hid for a while.
You're making this music industry sound like some sort of war.
Yeah, there's all these ghouls, and they just chase you down. Yeah, watch out. But no, like it was good. Like a lot of people, like everyone's really, really friendly. If you're nice to them, they're gonna be nice back. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's all about the music, like you send them your best stuff, and you like sell it to them as much as you can. Just like, yeah, this is my good track, it's coming out soon. You're gonna love it.
I mean, that's something we were just talking about before we even started, was like the music is the most important thing by a country mile. Like, I mean, we have been sitting here in this panel this morning and the panel right now talking about all of the bits that you put on the Christmas tree, but like, you kind of need the tree in itself, which is the music. And like, I don't know, how do you work with the people that you work with, and do you think that people spend enough time on the music, Francesca?
Yeah, well, I mean, in my case, like I started working with Letha off the back of ATL because I heard their track on Monday Night Show, and the next day, like myself and Lyndon were like, who was that? Like, they were amazing. Who are they working with? And that's kind of how we started working with them. So it was purely just by hearing the track that we loved them. Like, they didn't have any sort of like really an awful lot of internet presence. They didn't have any press shots or anything. So the fact that they had that raw talent from the beginning meant that we could work with them and actually, work with them collaboratively to kind of build that kind of world around them. So that's definitely still the most important thing. And like we're saying, on radio, for example, you can't see anything. It's purely auditory. So kind of, having all that extra stuff is great, but it has to come down to the foundation, which is the music.
What about you, Anya?
Yeah, definitely. Like, the music speaks for itself. Like, I even remember with you, Rory, like I was definitely struck online. I thought your visuals were so amazing and so great. And I remember like following you immediately, but then I think you'd emailed me and sent me over your track, and I loved it immediately. I think I was covering an ATL that week, and I was like, I want this song to be the best song in the world for this week because I thought it was incredible. So yeah, like the visuals can be as great as you want, but if the music doesn't follow up with that, like, you're going about it the wrong way.
But like, I mean, you spend a lot of time thinking about who you're going to send the music to, and almost planning out this like big business plan in your head of what's going on. Do you think that like artists need to spend more time getting a little bit out of their comfort zone, listening to music that they maybe don't necessarily do, like maybe try writing in different ways? Rory, what do you think about that?
Yeah, experimentation is key for making music, 100%. And experimentation in just listening to music and writing music and just challenging yourself. Just like think of like a real wacky melody in your head, and then like put some chords to it, and then put like a 5/4 time signature drum to it, and see what the hell happens. It could be absolutely shite, but at least you're getting somewhere with like being out of your comfort zone and making something that you wouldn't have made if you weren't just like, right, well, I'm going to make something really, really weird.
What's the ratio of like great to shite that you write?
50-50, I like to think.
Well, I mean, it's a fair question. Like, I think any creative endeavor that you do, there's going to be sometimes there's going to be a lot of flab that needs like trimmed off. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
Like you're going to write a lot of stuff. It's just not going to go anywhere.
100%, and you have to be critical to yourself as well, and think about what your project needs, and think about like what people want to listen to. People aren't going to listen to you fart into a mic. You know what I mean? But
there are parts of YouTube that I'm sure do that.
Yeah, just but yeah, just listen to a lot of music and like really just be inspired by it. Like if you're really, really inspired by something, you're generally going to make something good out of that inspiration. Just take something from a song and just elaborate on it. Even if you just like hear like some bass line that sounds really cool, you just like take a tiny bit of it and you're like, yeah, that sounds cool, and you just put your own spin on it, and just experiment with sound. Like I got myself a synth, Novation Mini Nova, and I didn't touch it for like a year. And then when lockdown hit, I was like, right, I'm gonna take this synth out, and then the whole Lemonade Shoelace project kind of just spawned from me just using this synth. So yeah, just like get yourself some good gear, and experiment as much as possible, and listen to house and techno as well. Like that has a big impact on music. You know, that drive and rhythm, you know, is what gets people dancing. You know, and it has its place in pop music as well, and people don't really think about that too much.
There you go, 4 to the floor.
Four to the floor.
Well, you did say 5-4 a wee minute ago, but like I'll not hold that against you. So like the visual side of things, like you kind of get it, Corbin, when it's packaged up and ready to go, really, isn't it? Like the visual side of thing is super important for you.
Yeah, I think something that's been lost or certainly minimized in the streaming era is there's a difference between breaking a song and breaking an artist. Like you can have these huge hits, but you wouldn't know who that artist is if they fell over you in the street. And I think YouTube is the place where you can go to kind of really build that artist story. Because, you know, I love a song, but I fall in love with the artist. That's who I want to go to the tour. That's, you know, the merch that I want to buy. You know, that's the person. And even if they, you know, write a couple of dud songs, I don't mind because I love the artist. I'm going to stick by them. And kind of sharing that journey and artistry on YouTube is, we have 2 billion people on the platform every month. Like there's nowhere better to kind of tell that story, and whether that's through kind of track by tracks or behind the scenes or tour diaries or you know, breaking down your songs, creating the visuals. That's where people are going to fall in love with you as an artist.
How have video music videos kind of changed over the years? Because like, do you remember like having a music video in the like late 90s or early 2000s was only something that the king and queen of the world could ever have, because budgets were about like 1 million for, I don't know, like P Diddy to have somebody like shake their booty beside a car. Like now everybody can put a video together. How has it changed over the years?
I mean, it's an interesting point. I was speaking to a record label the other day, and they signed an artist. The artist signed with them just because the label said that they'd pay $6 million for their music video, which sounds unrecoupable to me. But I mean, it's a great video.
I mean, you cannot. Yeah,
it's like a James Bond budget, isn't it?
I was gonna say, yeah, it's like James budget, like it.
But I mean, I've been doing a couple of sessions online with the OER Center, and I was saying how any things that are kind of more lo-fi and shot on mobile and a little bit more organic looking tend to get 2 to 3 times more subscribers to that channel than something that's polished and premium. And I think that kind of, I mean, if you look at Pink Pantheress as an example, like everything about her is super kind of low budget, and that's her brand and her design. You don't have to have, you know, a Little Mix style budget and music video of dances. Like, just as long as you've got some content and it's aligned with your brand and your visuals and the story you want to tell, that's the main thing. Budgets, you know, it's nice to have, but it's a recoupable cost, and you can do a lot of it yourself and get a similar impact.
Yeah, because like, I mean, when you're making content for the YouTube platform, I'm sure you're like, you know, people are clipping that and you're using it for little bits on Instagram, and they're using it for across their social media as well.
Exactly, and it works the other way as well. YouTube used to be a place where it was really long form content where people would only put their music videos, whereas now people are putting teasers and trailers and snippets and, you know, 15-30 seconds. We have a thing called YouTube Shorts now, which is 15 to 60 second pieces of content, and all of that is great for people to kind of realize who you are. 80% of the views on YouTube come from the algorithm, and the more content you're given to that algorithm, the more likely that people are going to discover you and then discover your music.
What percentage is
80?
80.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what is the secret to the algorithm then? If I like put my left hand up at the 1 minute mark and have like I don't know, like some product placement in the background.
You've got it. That's it.
Got it.
I mean, its job is to understand the user and connect them to great content, right? Like, people usually watch about 2 to 4 pieces of content every time they go into YouTube, and like I said, the majority of that will have come from the algorithm, kind of suggesting up next and recommendations and things like that. The more content you give it, the more likely it's going to be surfaced. And the one tip I would say is, don't be clickbaity. because if people are watching your content and they're not getting what they expected, they're going to bounce off, and the algorithm is going to say, oh, people don't like that content, I'm not going to surface that anymore. So make sure that you're being authentic with what your kind of title and descriptions are, and keep people watching as much as possible.
Yeah, I've noticed that, like in a lot of the YouTube stuff that I watch, it's not as clickbaity as it used to be. It'd be like every single video would be like, you'll never believe what happens in this video, and it'd be like some guy unpeeling the top of a sweet corn can. Wow. Yeah. So it's just a little bit more normal now.
Yeah, I think creators realize that it doesn't work. People are going to watch it for a couple of seconds, and you don't get the view. You don't get the positive algorithm signal. So people have kind of.
What about like downvotes and stuff like that? Does that have a problem? Like it's like
upvotes, downvotes, likes and dislikes. They do. They all impact it. It's watch time. It's click throughs. It's likes. It's comments. It's interactions. I think a tip for kind of anyone here is, I know it sounds a bit curatory, but ask people to subscribe to your channel, ask people to hit the like button, ask people to comment, because all of that is going to be showing the algorithm that people are engaging and liking.
Like that smash button, as my friend said once.
Exactly, yeah. Smash it.
Like that smash button. Addison, when you're like looking for somebody to book and they're brand new, what are you looking for?
Well, I think you were talking a bit about how the music has to speak for itself, and I think that's really important. But I'm probably the only person here maybe that thinks that the visuals have to be just as strong. And I think that like a lot of the time I can look at it from both sides of the coin as well, because as my other job as a booking agent with Midnight Mango, so my job is to pitch artists on my roster to festivals, to venues, to promoters. And, a lot of the time you can't just send, a bio and a link. You have to send, a really strong music video or a live performance, and basically just evidence that the band look cool in some way, because the song can be as strong as it is, but if you've kind of stage charisma or I guess style to it, people are not going to come down for a set kind of thing. And especially at the moment when a lot of the money that not to make it about money, but a lot of the money in the music industry is in the live industry, because streaming is down and all of this kind of thing. But I think that is probably like a really strong aspect of it, is kind of the visuals, and the draw basically, and the involvement that you have in the scene or in the genre that you're within. A lot of like what Francesca was saying about picking your team and making sure that it's people that you connect with and that understand you. You've got to do that in terms of the venues you're working with as well, in terms of the audience that you're engaging with, in terms of the other bands that you're supporting. A lot of it is personal connection, and you can put money on advertising and you can do this and that and the other, but at the end of the day it's footfall through the door, and you're only going to get that through connection. And I think that that's probably the most important thing.
I suppose like you touched on it there, but like we should talk about it is money. Like like at the very start of your career, like you're beg, steal and borrowing to get everything going. It's like, have you found that, Rory, or what's the story?
Yeah, money is a big issue, but like it's also not like you can do a lot with little money. Like even like the Autopilot Paradise music video, I think that cost me like 250 quid. Just like the director was really, really into the idea, and we just got like a lot of like random things in the video that you just kind of work together. Yeah, you don't have to invest too much money. I suppose like if you have a decent setup, then you don't have to worry about it. But like if you can get some funding and have like a decent studio setup where you're able to record like demos at least or full songs, then you'll be flying 100%.
Because like there isn't that much to float about in the early term, is there, Anya? Like with bands?
Definitely not, but I do think it's about being sensible about where you put your money and investing it in the right places. £6 million in a music video for your first music video is not a sensible decision, and that's something.
You could buy dairy for that, couldn't you?
Oh, 6 million, it would go for way cheaper than that. But yeah, like
she's from Derry. She
I know
can
I
say
can
it.
say that.
I was born there as well, so we can both say it.
But yeah, like even something that I, discovered with Riva along the way. Like there was times that we put a lot of money into like music videos and stuff, and they looked visually great, but they just didn't hit the same way as like one that we did with her last year when we were like in the middle of like the proper lockdown and we just like couldn't organize anything to make, and we just got like loads of different artists to like send video like 10-15 second clips of themselves. So it's not well edited, everyone's camera is a different way, but because it was so personal and it was so genuine, people really connected with it, and it performed way better than anything else that we'd ever done of hers before. And I think it is about that authenticity. So we've had the discussion since, we would, unless like it was something that we think is really, really going to benefit, like we're not going to put that sort of money into anything again. So yeah, it is about being sensible about where you put your money and what you invest in. A lot of musicians have creative friends, and it's about like growing with them at the same time. So there's always like one of your friends is like wants to be a photographer, so like take some photos with them and like work with them, and you'll develop together. Maybe one of your friends is looking to become a videographer, like test some video ideas out with them and things like that, and like save money where you can, and yeah, just invest it well.
Like steal and borrow. Francesca, what are you saying about that?
Literally, like I'm just agreeing to everything all you're saying right now. I'm like, yes, I had like a similar experience with one of my artists. Like we spent way above and beyond for like a music video, and neither of us even liked it at the end of it. Honestly, it was not what we hoped, and like we ended up like they had actually done the sort of like trailer sort of teaser video, and it was so much more impressive looking. And like you're saying, it was literally because it was personal and it was unique and had that kind of like DIY kind of look to it and looked class, and it was like short form as well, so it was so much cheaper and easier to do, and it got so much more engagement. So yeah, like you do kind of learn from your mistakes as well. Like, we can say, oh god, that was a waste of time and all this, but then we just kind of know to kind of go with our instincts the next time. So you can never really fail at any of this stuff. It's all just like a learned experience. And yeah, I think like Rory said there about funding as well, definitely keep an eye out for like funding opportunities from like musicians, from Arts Council, PRS, and like the OES Scratch program. Like there are amazing opportunities where you can get assistance with like creating a budget, and like Anya saying, spend it wisely as well, so you can learn an awful lot from those things too.
I mean, like if you get like a fairly decent amount of streams on YouTube, it can put money back into an artist's bank account that's only starting out.
Yeah, exactly. I think kind of I forgot who said it, but like it's important to kind of have a goal and a strategy. And I think one of the first things that you should do is set yourself a goal of hitting 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, because once you hit that, you join the YouTube Partner Program, which allows you to get money from the ads that are served on your content. So yeah, kind of do what these guys are saying: create content, create it low budget, and just keep smash that like that smash button, and hit that 1,000, and then you start making some money.
It is like somebody was telling me that once you get up to 1,000 subscribers, then your subscriber level tends to go a lot faster at that level as well. When you hit the partner, I mean, I might be fed absolute crap like about.
I mean, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that the more subscribers you get, then the more people are going to watch your videos as it drops, and therefore it's going to start populating more into the homepage and the trending and things like that. So it'll be difficult at first, kind of to get that traction going, but once it's like a snowball, once you start hitting those milestones, it's going to grow and grow and grow.
And you get to the level where your band's so big that you become too big and you pivot to boxing, just like Logan and Jake Paul.
Exactly.
that's where you want to be, guys.
Yeah,
that's where you want to be. Addison, do you want to be seeing other people sending you videos of their live show? Like, do you want to see that, or is that necessary?
It's more about even just having like a strong music video, or like just strong visuals in general. It is great to see other live performances, but I think evidence enough in terms of, I'm not saying that the next gig you want to pay someone a lot of money to go down and film it just so that you'll like get more gigs, but just saying that you've played these gigs, that's enough. And then having strong visuals, having strong press shots even is just good for radio, for live, for everything. But I guess it also, as well as showing that like the band is relevant and stuff like that, it also shows commitment. And it shows that you're willing to invest time and money and thought into the project. And and that it's not, you know, just kind of like a throwaway hobby type thing as well. I think that's important to know, especially when at such a small level, when, you know, people in PR or you know, promoters or management are investing into you, they need to know, you know, because a lot of the time there's, you know, it's not a big turnover from it. It's a risk that they're essentially taking on you. So I think you need to be showing a level of like commitment to the project in itself.
Rory, like, are you somebody that thinks deeply about the music video? Like, do you have your whole aesthetic planned out for the next 20 years, or like, do you know what you?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a lot based around what's on my head, which is the bucket hat.
Yeah.
But I think it's good for an artist to create a brand and an aesthetic around the music.
Sometimes it's just as easy as a bucket hat, isn't it?
Exactly. Like something that's just kind of memorable. Someone's going to be like, oh, I remember seeing that in the music video. And then
The guy with the comedy white fronts, the really big ones, you'd be like, well, that hasn't been done in a while.
Exactly. Something like that. But it's really important just to be authentic to yourself. Like, if you're not a bucket hat person, don't wear a bucket hat. But do you know what I mean? Yeah, because like people love to see that. People love to see something different. Like if you think of like all these big artists, like they've all got something going, as in like, you know, like Tyler the Creator's Igor, you know, he had a certain aesthetic for that album, and it's really something that everyone should think about, because you know it just makes it a lot more successful when there's a whole rounded shape of a project. Like I like to think of a triangle as like the message, the sound, and the aesthetic, and if you can, you know, like correlate everything between each other, it's going to be a success, as long as you're true to yourself, though.
It's a manager's dream speaking right there. Francesca, we were talking about earlier on about like a case study of like an act that's kind of started like where everybody starts really at the beginning, and has kind of slalomed their way up to the upper echelons of music. I'm going to ask each of you this. Obviously, you are the case study, Rory, so I can't ask you, but Francesca, take it away.
Yeah, I think in my instance anyway, Joshua Burnside, who I work with, he has been like on the circuit for like over a decade now, and he, like, you know, he started just like where everybody else is, like just, you know, putting his own tracks up online. But the fact that, and like kind of what Rory and Anya was saying, like the authenticity and like sincerity in himself and his music has remained constant throughout everything, and through that he's built like a loyal following, you know, and there's not just passive listeners here and there. They're like, you know, core fans. Like he just sold out 3 nights in Ulster Sports Club last week, and you know there's been queues out the door waiting for tickets, because he's been able to build that like loyal following just from, you know, his sort of like authentic sort of. And it's not like, oh, he thought I need to create a brand here, and you know, it's just something that happened so naturally. And because his music has just like improved over the course of, you know, however many years, it's kind of just been like a wee roadmap to success for him. And now it's after, you know, he's got his second shortlist album nomination for the NI Music Prize this year, and he won it a few previous years. So yeah, like as long as you're kind of staying true to yourself, and you can build up your loyal following that way. So yeah, he'll be my choice.
Corbin?
I wanted to choose like an indie artist, because I think ones that don't have, you know, those big budgets we were talking about in the teams, and you get to see people get really creative, particularly on YouTube. And for those who know, I mentioned Rina Sawayama, who I think is just an incredible artist in itself, but also just uses everything, just uses the platform in a great way, from, you know, doing acoustic sessions and behind the scenes and tour diaries, and did an album launch party live stream on YouTube because everyone was at home, but she still wanted to do a launch party, so she did a live stream. And you know, now she's gone on to, you know, working with Elton John, and I was at her show last night. She's got a sold out tour in Birmingham, and I just think it's great to see these people just get creative with YouTube and kind of just shine, really.
It's a great one. Addison, what about you?
Rena's such a good example. She's brilliant. I'm going to keep it a little bit more local. I just, over the past maybe like year or so, I've been so impressed by New Dad and how much they've come up. And they actually, I was working with a band. I was promoting a gig for a band in the Ulster Sports Club, and they're a great band. But when they came to me, they told me that the show had been rescheduled from, I think it was a year and a half ago, like pre-pandemic, and New Dad were actually meant to be supporting them. at the time, and it's a band now that like you would have just never got them on the same lineup, like, you know, New Dada supporting Fontaines and, you know, that kind of thing now. And it's been crazy to see how, like, just by having like a really strong you know, musical base and being really, really true to that, and just, I guess, just touring and you know, really kind of pushing that has got them so far already. Like, it's, I think in the next like year we're just going to see them get so big, and it's been so impressive.
Do you think that's just simply been because of the music? Like, I mean, I've just heard them on. I've basically heard them on Six Music every flipping 15 minutes.
I think it's the choices of, you know, it keeps going back to this, but the team that they're working with, like, they've made such good choices. I mean, you know, Chris Ryan from RoboCobra produced the EP and stuff like that, and like it's just so strong, and it's about, you know, working with people that really understand it and are going to push it and take it further. And sometimes I guess it's making the decision between, like, is it the person that's kind of got more traction and better connected, or is it the person that's, you know, maybe a little bit less well connected but can really get behind it? And I think that's maybe what, like, Francesca and Anya were talking about before as well, is that's maybe sometimes that's more important at this level. But yeah, for New Dad, I definitely think that like I can't believe, you know, they went from a band I hadn't heard of a year ago or a year and a half ago to, you know, supporting Fontaines. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, they're a great band. What about you, Anya?
So the artist I was thinking of is actually someone I've been working with over the last year as well, via my role within like Faction Records, and that's James Vincent McMorrow, who, similar to Joshua Burnside, has been like building his career for probably over a decade, but from a really small team that really cared about him, like his first manager and stuff. Like, you know, they pushed and pushed and pushed him, like, to get out there and to be heard by as many ears as possible. And now he's signed to Columbia Records, and he's one of the most popular Irish artists out there. He released a track last year with Rudimental, but he's always been completely true to himself, and that, like, no matter what way his music has gone or how it has developed, like, his voice is always the most prominent tool that he has, and it sits above everything else. And yeah, I think he's a great example for staying true and being authentic and just, like, you know, working at your craft as time goes on.
Yeah, because he wasn't somebody that was very comfortable being like in front of the camera for quite a while. Like, he was just writing songs and being a principal songwriter and kind of not hiding behind, but, you know, like, being less visual than probably most others.
Definitely not. And I still don't think he's an artist that's incredibly comfortable about being in front of a camera or in front of an audience. I think he's quite an introverted musician, but I think that comes out in his lyrics, and I think that's why so many people connect with him. But yeah, his live show and, like, from where he's come from has grown so much, and it's incredible to see that journey of an artist who struggled so much at the beginning, but through the belief of the people around him and his team has got to where he's got now.
In a minute or two, I'm going to ask you like a question, or like ask you to ask these guys questions even. So like you've only had like a single out. There's a lot of people like talking about your music, and it's a very blessed place to be. Like, you know, how does it feel for you, like, being this early on and doing stuff like this, and you know, having your music played on the radio, like, what, having people talk about your videos, like how does that feel?
Yeah, it feels great. Not gonna lie. I wish everyone could feel it, because I think everyone deserves it if they put the work in. But like, it's been a project that I've actually been working on for, you know, a number of years now. Like, you know, just in my head, and like the public are just hearing it for the first time. But yeah, like I never thought that I would get the recognition that it's getting. And I thought I'd have to put out, you know, a lot more singles, and probably an EP or an album just to get like this kind of recognition. But to get that off the first single is pretty amazing, and really didn't think it was going to happen.
And like, how do you feel like you've got a lot more music and a lot more stuff to come? Like are you like sort of going, right, well, this has gone really well in this first one, I can't wait till everybody hears what else I've got?
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's kind of daunting as well. It's like, right, well, I hope everyone likes this as well. But I'm sure.
I think you've got it. Like, you're only just starting out. You got a couple of eyeballs. Like,
that's it. Yeah. No.
Does anybody have any questions for any of our lovely panelists here? Go for it. suppose it's always about broadening your horizon and stuff as well. Like if you feel comfortable staying here and you feel like you'll be happy staying here, then by all means do so. But you're only young once, and sometimes it's nice to travel about and go and live different places. And the thing I've always known about home is like if it ever goes tits up, you can always come home. Do you know?
Like in BIM in Dublin, there's like a 1-year course that you can do, and I think you're only in like 1 day a week. So it would be a good idea to, like, even if you wanted to stay here and maybe just travel down to Dublin like 1 day a week and stay over. There's always that option as well, and I think all BIMs have that. It's like, I can't remember the name of the course, but it's only a 1-year course, and it's kind of like a tester.
I think some of these guys like touched on it earlier, but I think kind of the moral of it is that no connection or experience is really a waste. I think that, like, Philly said it, you can always come back. Even if you go and it fails terribly, you can come back and then you know exactly what went wrong and you know how to go about building it back up. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth it.
I'd say it's kind of, sometimes it's a bit hard to get that initial bite from someone virtually. So if you're able to kind of meet people in person and have that initial connection and then come back and then kind of continue that relationship and kind of, water it and feed it virtually, then I think that would be a good way. So you don't always have to be there, but, if you can occasionally go there and then continue online.
Or even like the other way around as well, like kind of reach out to people in advance of you going over, so it's worth your time, and so you're not going over like one in a million people. You're able to kind of go in there and meet with people who you already maybe have a contact with already. Do you know what? In my experience, anyway, not really.
I mean,
no.
Kneecap just sold out the Telegraph building. Like, it's massive.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely like on the rise majorly. And it was actually a couple of weeks ago. I went to, gosh, I've actually forgot the name of it now, but I went down to this like hip hop new, like it's like a venue space where they're kind of doing like, that's the one. Yeah, I went to that down. Yeah, was that where you are based? Yeah. Yeah, I went down there a couple of weeks ago and it was class. Like the atmosphere there, and like there's such like a hip hop like scene that yeah, and like I know there's like radio and scratching and like breakdancing and everything. Like there's a huge scene there too. So I would love to see more of that coming in, like getting like played on like introducing radio and stuff. So yeah, definitely if there's any of that, send it my way too.
Got a question down the back there. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone doing their first gig? Go on, Rory, take that one.
I only did my first gig recently. Addison, you actually put it on. When was it? Yeah, just like a couple of months ago.
It was all
right. But yeah, just don't overthink it. Just have fun with the crowd and just relax, because it's going to go well if you're obviously well rehearsed. There's not really much advice you can give apart from just be yourself and just kind of give your energy to the crowd and you'll get it back.
Good advice. Do we have any other questions? Yes, my man. Just PayPal.
I think initially, if somebody's reaching out and sending an email, like as we chatted about earlier, just like a well put together, like friendly email, like usually will like strike my interest immediately. Correct name, correct links, maybe a one sheet attached if needed, or like some more information below. And then yeah, like if the song is great, like that's always a plus. But make sure when you are sending music, like you are putting your best foot forward. Like don't be sending like anything and everything. Like if you don't believe in it yourself, like it's hard to convince somebody else to believe in it as well. So make sure when you're doing that, you're like, yeah, this is the track, especially when it's your first time reaching out, this is the track that's going to grab people's attention. And yeah, even if you send 100 emails out and you only get like a reply from 2 or 3 of them, it means you've reached those people, which is a success.
And I got an email like the other day, and the person said, I love the work you did with this artist and this artist. So that kind of made me think, oh right, okay, well at least they think that I think I will like their music, so they're kind of reaching out to the right person as well.
Yeah, I think that's like probably the biggest point is even because So when I used to, I don't do it so much anymore, but I used to review a lot of albums and singles. And even when I was pitching my own writing to editors, it was always to sites that I knew a little bit about. So I would always say, I love, this album that you covered, or I loved what you guys thought about this. And from that perspective, like, you, at least then they know that, this isn't obviously you're sending out bulk emails, you have to do that, but it's not just, being sent out into the ether with the hopes that like anyone's going to pick it up. It has to be, kind of streamlined in some way. So yeah, definitely like that personal touch, because email is so impersonal as well. So it's nice sometimes to, I don't know, have that kind of connection.
Also, just remember when you're sending emails, it took me years to realize this. Everybody reads emails angry. Do you know what? Do you know what I mean?
It's so hard to get tone on an email.
Yeah, tone on an email doesn't work. Everybody reads emails angry, and I figured that out to my detriment over the years. Like,
Yeah, put smiley faces in. I think that helps
exactly.
a lot.
I'm a big fan of too many exclamation marks, and then I read them back and be all, wow, I sounded insane in that. If I'm just really enthusiastic.
You've got a question? Who wants to take that one? Go on,
Me?
one of the managers are fighting for it.
You can go first, Jessica.
I think we kind of touched upon it earlier. Just taking your time with things, I think, is most important. So, like, I can obviously see it from an artist perspective as well. Like, if you have new music sitting there, the first thing you want to do is get it out. But sometimes taking your time and having a bit of a strategy around it is most important. So, like, look about and see if you can time that next single release with a gig maybe that's coming up, or like with an industry event that's coming up, or kind of try and time things. And if you're able to kind of get like a short form video lined up to maybe come out the week afterwards, so kind of have those things sitting ready, so you kind of have a bit of a strategy. I think yeah, and spend that time like building up your online presence as well, so the next time you release a track, it's not just going to be falling on the same ears again. So kind of spend a bit of time to maybe build up your artist profile first before you release another track, and maybe have a bit of a strategy around it would be the best way to go.
Go for it. Just like anything that has a link, really. I mean, like, obviously, if you're gonna send it to Corbin, don't send it. Don't be sending them like Spotify links. But I think like for me, like a Dropbox link that I have the ability to download it or stream it is probably the easiest. Like one of those Dropbox links is pretty much perfect. But yeah, as long as it's not just a download job, because there's nothing that's more of a turn off in the world than like having to download a load of music onto your laptop.
And the only thing I'd add is if the track is already out, you can create like a link file link or a smart link so that people can choose whatever streaming service they prefer.
Any more questions? I've been negating the back here, right at the back, what are you saying? I work in radio, so like the only thing that'll be left after the nuclear apocalypse will be radio and cockroaches. So we managed to deal all right with it.
In my perspective anyway, I was mainly doing artist management, obviously because there was no live music happening. I went into music PR then, because there was kind of no effect with releasing music, so that's kind of how it impacted me. And now I kind of do them side by side, so now that the world has kind of come back to life again. So yeah, that was kind of how it affected me.
Yeah, lockdown was the best thing to happen to me, to be honest. Just because I was able to focus so much time and energy into making music and really thinking about what sound I was going to have and what I could have after lockdown if I really put my head to the music. And yeah, it worked out pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I can see. I could. Yeah, you.
I think for me anyway, I was lucky in the sense. So my first experience of artist management was actually working with Francesca, Champion Sounds, and they had already a number of artists at that company. So when I started working there, it was building relationships with them. And after I finished my internship, Riva, who I work with now, was already a friend of mine's. So it was like an easy transition for a relationship, but it was also an artist that I was supremely impressed with, in love with her voice, could see like endless amount of talent. So yeah, I think like all of those things were important. As I said before, it's not a one size fits all method for managing artists, and some of them have different needs and expectations. And Aoife is definitely one of those artists, and I think us having a friendship and a personal relationship has definitely been to our benefit, but that's not always the case. So yeah, whatever works best for you, in terms of who you're interested in managing. But yeah, as Francesca said earlier, to be like totally besotted with their music, it's definitely, I'd say, number one, because it's a tough job, and yeah, it's all day every day. There's no times, there's no dates, there's not many holidays, like, so you have to feel that love, I think.
Any other questions? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it's just kind of managing their everyday and their long-term plan as well. So, whereas if I'm doing PR for someone, it's it's a campaign, so it's only over a certain amount of months, that you'd be working with them. Whereas whenever it's with an artist management sort of relationship, it's working with them on a longer term strategy. So okay, what's our plan for the year? What's our plan for the next 3 years and 5 years? So you're kind of working with them in terms of like releasing music and their live shows, and how do you keep continually building that artist presence like amongst all that too. So it's kind of just a bit of everything.
Do you ever get to the point where like you're managing somebody and you're obviously managing their music career, but they kind of forget and they ask you like to do something that's way above and beyond?
Yeah, or like the other way around as well. Like I'm kind of telling them to do things as well.
Yeah.
So it kind of is like a sort of a two-way street as well.
I've definitely done Aoife's dishes on a number of occasions while waiting for her to do an interview. So, like, I did a course with Hot Press magazine a few years ago, and I remember them like writing up on the board like expectations of a manager, and at the very bottom it said shoelace tire, mommy, and tea maker, and they were like, an artist manager's job can be anything and everything from day to day.
I remember like my first day as well, like whenever I started Champion Sound, and Linda said you're a part-time manager, part-time psychologist.
Yeah.
Really true still.
That's pastoral care, isn't
Yeah.
it? Do you have any more questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Obviously, like the artist has to have their own vision as well, but you're kind of there to be like a springboard for them too. So that's kind of why you have that relationship, to build a team around them so they feel supported as well. So as long as they kind of have an idea of what they want their sound to be, then you can obviously chip in with your advice as well. So it's kind of however much or however little that artist wants you to be involved in the creative process.
Right, guys, that's it for us. Could you give our panelists here a big round of applause? Thanks very much. Shani, you going to say something? Do you want the mic? All right, go ahead.
Hopefully you can hear me. I just want to say a massive thank you to our panelists on panel 2 and also our panelists from this morning. I really think you guys have got as much progress as we have hoped when we curated the panel. So massive thank you to you all. And a huge thank you to Billy, who has curated and mentioned a very lively discussion. I think you'll agree. So Billy, where can they find your podcast and all your podcast yourself?
If you go to, you can go to Amazon. You can buy the Slacker book that I wrote, which is basically a book for people who are starting out in the music industry. It's called The Slacker's Guide to the Music Industry. It makes a great stocking filler.
Brilliant. And also you'll be slasher videos. So we've seen a couple today, but they're all the whole tape of them are going to be there, and they're really, really worthwhile. And what you want. Thank you very much. Okay. We are going to have Kira and Leo from EPL doing fantastic. They build it and how to make money from music, so I know you'll all want to learn for that. They'll also give you one-to-ones after, so I think they have some very handy cook cards for you guys if you're up for it. So take a couple of minutes and we'll get set up.
Right.